Hello everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul. Today, once again, we have a special guest. It's JJ. You guys all know JJ, right? How's it going, JJ?
I'm doing all right, man. Thank you for asking.
All
a little
right.
bit under the weather.
That's what I was going to say. I know you're doing all right, but JJ's actually come down here to share some info with us, even though he's been a little bit sick. So we'll bear with that, of course, and thank you, JJ, for making the trip, because we have this board here, and I know this board has a special place in your heart.
It does.
And it's been something that we've been looking forward to ever since we first heard about it at Computex. So this is the MAXIMUS VI IMPACT, for those of you who aren't familiar with. It's a mini ITX board, Z87 chipset. It's designed for Intel's 4th generation core processors, and it is the first ever mini ITX board that is part of the ROG series.
You nailed it. Yeah, I mean, that covers actually a lot in terms of giving you just a little bit of a preview in terms of knowing where this board is being targeted at. And like you said, this is something that we've been working on for a very long period of time. You know, if we look back really over the last 24 months, almost the last 2 years, we've had a really aggressive amount of people within our communities and our users out there asking us to do a mini ITX based board. But as you guys know, with it being an ROG board, it's really kind of focused at being kind of that upper echelon in terms of the feature set, the functionality, and kind of the expectation of being a real enthusiast class board. And we felt that we could kind of already hit that with the previous Dash I Deluxe boards over the last couple of generations, really setting to have a high performance, high degree of overclockability, not really any compromise, but this still being an ROG board, we wanted to kind of take it to the next level. And that's what took us a little bit longer in terms of finalizing and really adding in those extra items that just kind of you were going to be blown away with when you took a look at the board and realized, wow, this is all on a micro ITX board, excuse me, on a mini ITX based board.
And I know there's a lot of challenges just from a design and engineering perspective of getting the hardware into the board that I know you guys want to include there, especially this being part of the ROG series, which you guys have always had a very high standard for. But we're taking a quick look at the back of the box here just so you guys can get a quick rundown. If you guys want to read over all the detailed specs, they're all listed there for you. These are also going to be available on the Newegg's product page for this, which you can find a link for down in the video's description. But as far as the box, which again we're not going to spend too much time, but we did want to point out at least the sonic radar. So this is something.
Yeah, so we're going to touch on one of the key real highlights of the Impact board. Is this is the first mini ITX based board that really brings you the high level of audio that we've integrated into our ATX based motherboards. So the Supreme FX based audio design we've essentially brought onto the mini ITX motherboard, and that's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, how do you end up doing that? And we'll talk a bit to that in terms of how we've accomplished that for this board when we take a look at it. But one of the things that's a little bit harder for you guys to see is going to be the sonic radar element of it. We have two key pieces of software that tie into the hardware-based audio design. One being Sonic Radar, which is a visual mapping system. So you can see that right here in terms of this little image. It's got kind of like an overlay that gives you a visual kind of radar to allow you to see where sound is coming from in different directions. And we can map that to different in-game sounds. So things like gunshots or footsteps or bombs. Like if, let's say, you're playing in Counter-Strike versus playing something in Battlefield 3, you may want to prioritize different sounds in different ways. And this is something that we're still actively engaging with the community and collecting feedback on as far as what the final versions are going to be looking like for the long term. But it's an awesome feature that, along with our perfect voice and our noise gate technology, help to complement to not only give you the best in-game audio experience when you're chatting using something like Mumble or TeamSpeak or comms or whatever it might be, Ventrilo, but also then complementing the experiential aspect of when you're listening in-game and being able to go ahead and improve your positioning and your accuracy.
Nice. And I know we talk about the challenges of designing and developing a mini ITX board, and I think when it comes to a high-end gaming system, that is one of the first things. You got a lot of enthusiast gamers out there whose first thought with a mini ITX board is, I've only got one expansion slot.
Yes.
That's my discrete graphics card, and I can't go without a discrete audio card as well. Folks who, you got a high impedance set of headphones, something really nice like that. Pairing it up with the typical onboard audio experience is something that it's a limiting factor for that. So
it definitely is, and even just for somebody that kind of just wants a better sound experience. I mean, sometimes you might be somebody that enjoys watching something more online in terms of videos, YouTube. It could be Hulu, it could be Vudu, or it could be watching the latest Blu-ray or listening to music or playing a game. But the whole goal always is with ROG and the Supreme FX audio design is to improve that sound experience. And definitely with this even being a mini ITX board, even excuse me, even though we were limited in terms of the amount of real estate that we had to work with, we didn't want to compromise.
Yeah.
You know, we really wanted to try to give you actually the best class of audio that was possible. And the really cool part of this is that short of our Maximus 6 formula board, which carries just a crazy audio design implementation on it, this is actually going to be the highest in audio design that we've ever done on a motherboard. So even compared to, let's say, our Rampage 4 formula on the X79 chipset or the Maximus 6 Hero, this has better sound than either one of those boards, and those both feature the Supreme Effects audio design.
So that's saying a lot.
So yeah, it just goes to show you that even though this is small in form factor, it really follows the design ethos of what we had with this board, which was no compromise.
Very nice. So let me just quickly run down all the included accessories. Of course, you got your typical Maximus 6 Impact. There's your user's guide. You got your disk inside with drivers. Go ahead and download updated versions of the drivers from the ASUS website.
Yeah, make
Always
sure though, don't forget about that disk does include the full 1-year licensed version of Kaspersky Antivirus.
Oh, nice.
It's got the ROG RAM disk software that's also included on there,
okay,
and the Damon Tools Pro standard software. So both those things, you know, if you were to go out and buy them alone, would be between $25 to $35. So you definitely want to make sure to utilize that, and that you can't download from the support site.
Okay.
So you do want to be able to make sure that you leverage it from the support disk.
Very good point. Very good point there. Also the stickers there, which I always like. You guys have been including with the ROG boards, especially in a mini ITX build. You've got all your cables routed. Labeling them is going to help prevent some headaches in the future if you ever need to make any modifications to your mini ITX system. 4 serial ATA cables, revision 1, 2, and 3 capable. I see you've got all straight plugs on all the ends. I like that. And here's it's
the modified Q connector.
Modified Q connector. So again, when you're in a mini ITX build, you're working with limited space. So this block, I'm guessing, would plug into the board.
Yep.
You got leads coming out there, giving you much easier access.
And it's like you said, when you're dealing with such a tight, cramped space, it's harder to sometimes be able to make all those connections to that small little header. So it's much easier to just plug that onto the board, and then from there make all those key connections to the corresponding lead points.
So it makes it a bit easier. And of course, you could bypass this if you wanted to, but it gives you the option either way. A small riser card here. This is your 802.11 AC wireless.
That's correct. 802.11 AC 2x2 PCI Express space, so ultra high performance, fastest wireless standard you can get right now, along with Bluetooth 4.0 natively integrated in there. And then on the other side, you have support for NGFF or M.2, so that's the new high-speed, small storage form factor for SSDs.
That's this
that
one right
replaces
here?
the previous M-SATA standard. And you're going to start finally seeing those M.2 based SSDs finally hit the market, probably right around this time frame. Going towards the end of the year, you're going to start to see different companies come out with it. So if you don't want to necessarily utilize the integrated SATA 6G SATA ports, you want to go for a tighter, more compact, streamlined build, you can go ahead and not only leverage the fact that you've got the onboard wireless, but just drop in an ultra small form factor based SSD and you're good to go.
Now, would this still be using the SATA standard for communication?
No, the actual NGFF based protocol is different. It uses a PCI Express based link, so it offers lower latency. It can potentially offer higher throughput, but that will depend on the actual interconnect that's chosen by the vendor. So since this is the first generation that we're incorporating in, onto motherboards, it doesn't carry the fastest speed specification to it, but it will offer essentially about the same performance that you would have from a SATA port.
Nice. So a lot of functionality in this one little riser card, and then there's your wireless on the other side. You route these over to the rear panel. You can connect up the antenna, which is also right in here, and you guys also have done some special redesign with the antenna for this generation?
Correct, and actually going back to the little M-Combo module, we still continue to use the SMA-based antenna connections, so that even if you don't want to necessarily use our antenna that's included in there, you could check out Newegg's wireless section, and you could get a higher DBI or amplified-based antenna to give you better range, better throughput, although these are quite solid, so, and you also have some position adjustments available to you as well.
You can rotate that around so you can prop it up.
And we still keep the magnetic base too. So if you happen to be using it in one of the chassis where it's maybe an all aluminum chassis frame, you can go ahead and just slap it to the side of the chassis or the top of it so that it's easy to always make sure that you know where it is.
Nice. All right. So there's your wireless, also integrated. Another thing that some people might be concerned about with mini ITX board, if you had, say, a lower standard of wireless you wanted to upgrade, that's another thing you'd be limited on. So nice that you guys have the newest standard, which is just released and should be the standard for quite some time.
Yeah. And one note to, I guess, tie in with that, of course, though, to make sure some people forget that it isn't a fully interoperable standard, so even if you have a previous generation 811N router, it is fully backwards compatible. But if you're looking to get the actual fastest level of performance, you do need to match it with an actual AC router.
Okay, and ASUS has some fantastic ones of those as well. these are just some spacers? I'm not sure
yeah,
what
these are
for.
special spacers. The main reason is that we have the option to adjust a small amount of the fitting for the board when it's mounted. And this is just, you'll see that there's more information in the manual that refers to this, that certain types of cooling solutions may need a small washer to offset.
So it actually gives you a little bit more height on the board and a bit more space like behind the board.
And it also relates to sometimes different types of cooling solutions that may require a backplate-based design. So it's not something that you'll always need, but in certain configurations, and you'll see we have it detailed in the manual, you may need to use those spacers.
Very nice. We also have, of course, the I/O shield right here, which is in this plastic, which I'm having a difficult time with. Okay, you guys still got the squishy electromagnetic shielding on the back, which was introduced by ASUS.
Yes, the Q shield, so it makes it nice and soft, easier for you to go ahead and work with and actually push in. You don't cut or nick your fingers, but like you noted, the actual technical reason why it's also there is to minimize on electromagnetic interference from coming through the actual I/O backplane and going onto our board, which can sometimes affect minor points of stability, overclockability, and little things like that. So it's just a kind of one of those more premium elements that you're going to get on our higher end boards versus some of our more entry level boards, which may not feature the full Q connector based, the Q shield based design.
And just so you guys get a closer look at this, I was commenting to JJ when I first pulled the Impact out of the box, because this was my first time looking at a finalized version of it. These elements that you guys have moved to the rear I/O, I find to be just really, really intelligently designed. I mean, these are parts of the motherboard that I would like to have easy open access to. And again, in a mini ITX system, it can be very difficult once it's all wired up. So they've moved well, here, why don't I pull the board out so I can just show you guys right side by side. Usually we wait for I/O till the end, but since we're talking about it right now. So you've got your LED right here. So this is going to be for postcodes. So you can use it for debugging.
That is your debug LED.
You also have a couple buttons, of course, right here on the back as well. So the direct key is something I've been using a lot, especially if you're on a Windows 8 system and it boots really, really fast. That'll get you straight into the UEFI. So
just go ahead and hold down that button.
Super nice. And then the red one, is that a clear? Oh, that's the Memo K button.
That's correct.
Nice.
Memo K button.
So that's
your
also
clear Cmos would still be here, like it would traditionally be. So yeah, and that main reason why is because we still, of course, wanted to be able to add all the value that we would traditionally have on a normal motherboard. So we've got the Memo K, we've got the direct key function. We have here the clear Cmos, and we even still maintain not only the USB BIOS flashback technology, but even the ROG Connect functionality.
Very nice.
The board doesn't come with the ROG Connect cable, but if you're a user that does have a previous generation ROG enabled board that came with the cable, you would still be able to go ahead and connect it and depress that and be able to access that feature.
Very nice. And just out of curiosity, which port would be that, or is this where you've enabled it for all the ports?
No, it's actually specified in the manual. I believe the correct port should be this bottom USB 2 port.
Okay, so the lowest USB 2.0 port right there.
Correct.
Also for USB BIOS flashback, which is another feature that I just
great way to just update
love.
or recover the UEFI. No CPU, no memory, no graphics card.
All right. Ah, there we go. And then apart from that, just to round out the I/O, you have the NIC right here. That's an Intel NIC?
That's correct. Intel NIC. It also comes included with our Game First packet priority software. So it allows you to go ahead and maximize, get lower ping, lower latency, or especially tune network traffic for things, whether it's gaming, whether it's downloading, whether it's voice over IP. You're going to be able to tweak and tune that and maximize your internet connectivity.
Okay. USB 3.0, I'm guessing you guys have gone with all the native ports available for
Z87. That's correct. So we have native support that's offered by the chipset.
Okay.
Of course, we still maintain the USB 3 boost technology as well.
Very
so
nice.
You can improve the performance of your flash drives or high-speed external SSDs.
So 4 USB 3.0 ports right there. You've got a couple more available via an internal header, which we'll take another look at in a second.
And for the USB 3 as well, those also still support the USB Charger Plus. So
nice.
If you, like you just picked up a new Nexus 7, or if you got the latest generation smartphone, doesn't matter whether it's iOS, whether it's Windows or Android, you can take advantage of that quick charging technology as well.
Nice. Apart from that, we got an eSATA port.
That's a SATA 6G eSATA.
SATA 6G, nice. Is that also connecting to the native?
Yes, it's linked in
Z87?
from the chipset. So the board natively has 4 ports that we'll cover on when we get to the topology, but that one is linked from one of those 6 ports.
Extra one back there. So external SSDs now becoming a bit more of a possibility. Apart from that, we already covered these components right here, but then you got display outs for the iGPU in your chosen Haswell processor. So you got a display port, HDMI, and then optical. Is that a Toslink out?
Yeah, optical Toslink output, and that works with, of course, the Supreme FX-based audio design, and we still maintain the optional DTS Ultra 2PC and DTS Connect technology.
Okay.
And we'll touch on it. Well, actually, it might be a good time to touch on it now.
Sure.
But one feature that you can't immediately see that we have enabled on the Maximus 6 Impact is called Music PNP.
Okay.
That will actually work with the Supreme Effects audio-based design. So when you actually have the card connected and you are using the actual line level output, you can actually connect using the front audio connection from your chassis, and you can use the mic input and run a line input into that. And even if the system is entirely turned off, you can actually have the board actually create a full pass-through and pass that audio out to your connected speakers. So if, take for instance, let's say like I took out my smartphone and I was to walk up to my system and I just took a cable and I plugged it into the microphone jack and it was playing something from Spotify, or if I was listening to a podcast or whatever it might be, and I had my speakers connected to the Supreme Effects, the audio would play back even if the system was entirely off. So it's a cool little supplemental feature that is tied into the hardware design, but it's not something you're going to immediately see.
All right. So since we've been talking about audio, let's finish off. So here's your Supreme Effects daughter board, and this is sort of the voodoo that you guys have put together to enable the level of audio quality that's integrated onto this board without actually, well, you kind of ran out of space. So you're like, well, we'll just build vertical then. Yeah,
and it takes on kind of the design ethos of what we did with the VRM assembly, where, as you noted, we created an a vertical off daughter board as opposed to crowding the centralized area. The great thing about this is that we were able to bring a really high grade of performance audio in here. So we still have the high performance ALC 1150 audio codec, and like it has always been with the Supreme Effects audio-based design, we want to take that codec and actually have it operate at its maximum output frequency so that it's not impacted by being affected by the rest of the core components.
Okay.
You still have the fully shielded design. You still get the audio grade capacitors by Elna to be able to improve the overall tonality, the clarity, the sound stage gets better detailing.
Okay.
We have, of course, a dedicated operational amplifier that's integrated on here, and this is an actual audio-centric operational amplifier. Some of the other vendors out there that may be incorporating op amps onto their boards aren't necessarily picking audio-centric op amps. And this can actually be different in terms of the tonality. It can offer sometimes higher driving output support, but not necessarily also improve the driving experience. And we're very, very careful that when we're designing the Supreme Effects audio design, that we want it to be inherently an improvement that you're going to have for whatever it might be, whether it's music, movies, or games. And we still maintain what's also called a dual differential-based audio design. This is a very advanced audio technique to be able to go ahead and have superior audio quality output. And really, at the end of the day, it just gives you a high-quality, discrete class audio design integrated on this motherboard. So even in a ultra small form factor, you're not going to be compromising on the sound.
Very nice. And just as far as the functionality that you guys might come to expect, you got your front panel audio connector right there. This is where the actual the riser card would interface with the motherboard, just via these little connector right here. And I do like you guys put some actual more heavy-duty screws on there to connect that in.
Yeah, that's just screw it in, make sure it doesn't move anywhere.
This is where you're going to have your audio jacks out at the back for your analog connection points, and obviously if you're plugging and unplugging those, you want to have that to be as stable as possible. So that would just mount on right there. The outputs for the audio are integrated onto the I/O shield right there as well.
So I guess just to give some finalized perspective for users, if you were to kind of semi-mount that on there and put that right there, that's what you're going to be looking at. So you're going to have that one if you want to hold that one there, Paul. And then you've got your Supreme Effects audio design.
So this is kind of
a makeshift
installation. A quick makeshift assembly of this little thing. We're going to be doing a build with this. If I'm
we're going to do a live stream.
So
if you guys actually want to see how it all comes together.
By the time you watch this video, the live stream might already be up, so you can probably go and check out. JJ and I are going to do that live, and I'm sure everything will go smoothly.
And you can see that's a pretty packed I/O, but the great thing about it is at the end of the day with this board, you can walk away with a sense of not having any compromised elements. I mean, you've got the fastest wireless you can get, you've got Bluetooth, you've got discrete quality integrated audio, the fastest USB 3 performance, outstanding networking line level connectivity, you've got overclocking centric based controls that are built on board, multiple display outputs that are on there, and even eSATA 6G, and plus those supplemental things like the USB charger plus or USB BOS flashback. There's just a ton that's all integrated on here, and it really leaves you feeling like you're not really limited in terms of what the overall experience is that you're going to have on this ultra small form factor.
Exactly. And all in a mini ITX form factor. It's pretty insane. All right, so actually let me get one of our little stands here so we can prop this up and give folks more of a frontal view. All right, so there's the board from the front. Let me flip to the back just because that's something that I typically do. Of course, I mean, color scheme is not always at the forefront when it comes to design, but the red and black of the ROG.
It's a classic aggressive styling. It looks good, and it's going to complement a ton of amount of builds, and of course, it's going to probably look really good if you put a DirectCE2 card in there, seeing as our DirectCE2 cards are also red and black. Right?
Also maintaining the color scheme. So there's a look at the PCB from the back. It is a nice semi-gloss black, and then here from the front of the board, you can see a bit more of the layout. Now let's talk about fan headers, JJ, because how many fan headers are on this board?
There's 4.
Okay, 4 on a mini ITX board. Again, just
It's pretty crazy. I mean, compared to our Z87-i Deluxe, that one only had 2. So this one steps up to double. And the other big feature update is that they all support the Fan Expert 2 class technology, meaning that every single header supports not only the 3-pin control, but 4-pin control, and they're all manually tunable. So you can go into the UEFI, or you can go into the operating system, make all your full real-time adjustments, and you have that level of granularity and control. So if you're using something like a little bit larger chassis, like a BitPhoenix Prodigy, a Sugo, Cooler Master Elite, where you can have maybe 3 or even 4 fans set up in that type of configuration, this is really nice because you don't have to worry about like splitting leads off or using some type of fan controller that may or may not fit into your build. So it just overall helps to really focus in at giving you the best level of functionality that we can on a small form factor board.
Very nice. So as far as the fan headers go, you got the CPU fan header right here, and that's another element that you guys introduced with the Z87 line. It's got an extra little side, I don't know what you call that. Little push.
Yeah, there's a depression sensor.
Depression sensor, that's a much more official name for that. So basically what that does is it detects that you've just plugged in a 4-pin header and automatically engages PWM mode?
Yeah, okay. Essentially it just allows it to automatically be initialized. So you've got the majority of the headers are right there in that area, just really easy to overall work with. And we tried to even consider overall the layout on this board, because one of the things that you're going to have even within a cramped environment is you don't want to be affected by how you're going to work with it. And that's hard to do within this type of board, but even things in the spacing, some of the other mini ITX boards on the market, you're going to see that this CPU socket is actually much closer. It's down here above the primary by 16 physical slot. The disadvantage of that, of course, is if you try to have a variation in the type of CPU coolers that you use, they'll immediately obstruct and impact this by 16 slot. So this is the optimal area in terms of the spacing you would want to have. So this is going to allow you to use tower-based heat sinks, because you could go ahead and fit that in there and not have it the primary by 16, or you could go ahead and use a downward firing heatsink or like a closed loop solution, which wouldn't be impacted by this, but overall gives you the most flexibility. And even though we've gone with a vertical dotted board, we have considered all the height and clearance considerations. So for these larger high performance low profile fans, like let's say like a Thermalright AXP based cooler, you can still entirely put that on there and not have any clearance issues. So you have a huge amount of flexibility in the same way that you would have that on an ATX based board.
Very nice. Then we also have the full 24-pin plus an 8-pin supplemental CPU power connector. So again, the power delivery just kind of unmatched when it comes to mini ITX boards.
Yep, 100%.
I like that you guys have still included a surface-mounted start button there as well. What's this one? This
so
is
you got
a reset?
Yeah, reset button,
Okay.
and you have
Reset
the power button, and then from there, of course, you have one of the other fan headers, and then the internal front USB 3 port. And of course, right next to that, it's a dual channel enabled board, only 2 DIMMs, but that still allows for quite a bit of memory. You've got 8 GB DIMMs now that you can get, so you can be looking at 16 gigabytes, which is going to be quite capable. And one of the other things is just pulling back to look at the entire board, you're still going to continue to see the high quality component utilization. So we're not compromising there, so you still have the ultra high grade 10K Nichicon GT capacitors.
Very nice.
So they have, of course, lower and higher operating temperature tolerances, longer lifespan, and overall superior performance. We've got this really high-end discrete daughter board VRM assembly, which is going to be a really high performance. You've got high performance chokes that are on there as well, giving us great power output capability. So this board will clock with the best of them. Actually, we've put it even under LN2, and from a DDR memory-wise, we've done over 4,000 on the memory. On the CPU side, we've done over the same frequencies that we've done with the Extreme and the Formula board. So for you guys that are real-world out users and that are just going to be targeting 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, no issues to worry about. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. One of the really cool things is we're working with partner companies like EK to actually even be able to have a water block-based design that covers both the VRM assembly and your CPU. So if you want to create a really cool, well temperature regulated system, you could go ahead and go with one of those blocks and cool the VRM as well as your CPU.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I know there's going to be people looking at this board, just kind of ideas start running through your head.
Start to spin.
What chassis to use, what type of configuration to go with. Do I go with air? Do I go with water? But like you're saying, that EK block, I want to see a system with that integrated, that and water cooled video card and all that good stuff. And the fact that they're making a special one that also covers the VRMs, it's just cool.
It is very cool. And I think rounding it out here, you still got a great level of storage connectivity. So you got 4 SATA ports on the board, of course, all SATA 6G. They're provided natively by the PCH. So I mean, when you kind of factor all these things together, I think you really see that you're not really compromising in any respect.
Definitely.
When it comes to the overclockability, the stability, and the feature set, they're all outstanding. And I definitely would recommend, if you guys haven't checked them out, make sure to go back and check out the UEFI videos that we did here at Newegg TV, because there's a huge amount of specialized features in the UEFI that are also applicable on the MAXIMUS VI IMPACT, like the ability to rename your SATA ports or the secure erase technology for SSDs, or a ton of other parameters that are all available to you. That is all going to be something that you don't see that's there on the board, but it is there.
Okay, so the original video we did with you a couple months back, where we were going over the ROG UEFI, it essentially be
100% identical. So you're not getting
okay.
any compromise in terms of the range or the options that are available to you. That you're going to have all of them available to you on here as well.
Beautiful. Well, does that just about cover it?
That covers it. I mean,
I know there's more stuff we could talk about if we really wanted to.
There's definitely a ton on there, but I think the board speaks for itself. I mean, if you're pretty much quintessentially looking for the outright best mini ITX board that I think has ever been made, and especially if you have that focus being somebody that appreciates tweaking, tuning, overclocking, and you want a great sound experience also integrated on your board, then the Impact is going to be the board to choose.
All right, well there you have it, guys. MAXIMUS VI Impact, it's out, it's live, it's available. We're going to try our very best to keep it in stock, although it might be tough, but we'll do what we can. But that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Once again, the MAXIMUS VI Impact Mini ITX Z87 board for Intel's 4th generation core processors, Haswell only, no Ivy Bridge or Sandy Bridge processors. I always want to point that out with the Z87 and the 1150 socket. JJ, thanks again for stopping by today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to you guys. This board exists because of you guys that were out there that were vocal enough to say this is what we want. So you guys get a big thumbs up.
And I agree. It is what we want. It's what I want. Actually, no. Okay. But yeah, stay tuned for more tech videos. JJ's going to be doing a few more with us here today. We've also got a live build with this board planned, so again, check out our YouTube channel. We should at least have an archive of that up, if not now, very soon. And don't forget to hit the like button right down there if you like this board, if you like JJ coming by and giving us all the gritty details on it. And we'll see you next time on Newegg TV.